do is get the meeting started on the record. So I'm going to look over to my team to make sure, and yours, make sure we're recording and live. So Eva, if you'll do the technical announcement of this bargaining session. And Jessica, can I ask you to close that? I know there's people still coming in, but we can have them come in that back door over there.
Monitor that.
And have them go into that back.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, we are recording and transcribing. So today is September 30th. And we are at the fourth negotiation session
Yes, ma'am.
with PEA in the district.
All right. We are good to go, Pepper?
Yep.
All right.
Right, there's a sign up, there was a sign in sheet going around. So if you're at the bargaining table,
Mhm.
please, we'll keep it in the circle of the bargaining table to sign the attendance sheet. That'll be good. And I wanted to begin with our first item, with respect to the third session we were together for bargaining. We had discussed linked in the original presentation, I think from our first or second session, with respect to the student services schedule.
Mhm.
There was a discussion of that schedule where we wanted to move it, and it would resemble that of the dean schedule. It would have its own schedule, but we needed time to program and schedule for that. So there was the discussion of the next year being a stipend with the transition into a new schedule.
Mhm.
So we would like to present that for consideration of tentative agreement as we start tonight.
All right. And just to reiterate, on our first meeting of June 26th, Union brought a proposal, like Mr. Warren had said, to move the $2,500 Kessler supplement into their pay schedule, but then also increasing everybody in student service, our school psychologists, our speech language pathologists, social workers, mental health facilitators, mental health counselors, would also be getting that 250 bump in their base pay if it's added to the salary schedule. Since we're in the middle of the fiscal year now, the district had brought a compromise to that and would do everybody, not just school counselors, that's on student services this year, as we move that $2,500 into their base salary starting July 1 of 25, so that it's lines up with the fiscal year. So that is what we are signing off on today.
We'll take just a moment and sign,
All right.
and we'll move to our.
Do you have your copy? Perfect. Yes, for our folks. Here is a completed one, and here's one for you guys. I can move down to everybody else.
We got 4 signatures. We got need mine.
That one. Okay. And keeping that.
All right,
Okay.
our student services, we just completed a tentative agreement. And the next thing I want to move to is a discussion regarding lunch that's been ongoing
Yes.
over our last several bargaining sessions. We're going to provide a handout that will some of the data that we collected that was part of what we had committed that we would provide.
Mhm.
And so that will demonstrate my next talking points. I'll first start by saying, we value, the lunches and the time for lunches. Hence, we want to have a data-driven discussion, to assess where we're at. I know there was some numbers being flipped back and forth at the table previously. So we surveyed, a total, number of almost 100 schools, as you can see in totality in the data chart that's been provided to you. You can see that by the data, when we surveyed those, you can see that they're broken out by school configuration, being K5, K8, 6-8, 6-12, 9-12, and K-12, and other being our non-traditional centers. You can see that honestly, only 18% of those are not at a 25%, I'm sorry, at a 25-minute or greater lunch period. Notice that 72 of them are right now with a lunch period for teachers between 25 and 29 minutes. You'll see that there are 9 that are 30 or greater, and then drawing our attention back to the 18. Now, I know we've discussed this at our previous sessions, and I'm going to recommend that we've reviewed, we've presented at the table where we're at. We've committed that this is something we want to continue to review, but we need to table this until the next bargaining session because we still have the fact with respect to how this would look at our elementary schools. I think that's a concern because that has a scheduling component with respect to how we can then answer you that those teachers are getting those lunches for the time period that's been discussed or otherwise. So we have the data. We think we're close. And this would be something we would additionally need time for planning with master schedule or otherwise.
Okay, we also have some data that we've collected from other districts. I had 29 districts respond and all 6 of the bigs, because we're the 7th big. So I want to, and I think that might be enough for your side. So based on the feedback I got from my colleagues in their districts, and there's probably more that just didn't respond to the survey, as you all know, that struggle. But all 6 of the bigs outside of Orange, who has a 25-minute guaranteed, but they are going to be going for 30 next year. Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, Hillsborough, and Duval all have 30 minutes. And then you can see the others in our surrounding areas. DeSoto, Hardy, Hernando, Highlands, Osceola, or Pinellas also have 30 that are direct competitors for our teachers and staff to go over there, and they have guaranteed 30 minutes. I hear that you are tabling this until next bargain. I would hope that you would reach out to some of these other districts, because if they can do it with a guaranteed 30 minutes and we're all working under the same instructional minute requirements and things like that, and we actually have more instructional minutes built in than most other districts, that I would hope that your side would be reaching out to your counterparts, as I've done with our counterparts. Because if most of the bigs can do it outside of Orange and they're at 25 and they're going to be going for 30, we can and should be doing that as well. And this is something that doesn't cost the district any money. It's a scheduling piece. And this is very important to our members and our bargaining unit to have enough time to eat. And this is also important for children, that they have enough time to eat. And so if our other surrounding counties can do it, we are confident that we can do it here in Polk. And so we love to hear what you guys get back from your counterparts in these other districts as well.
We'll follow up at a later time. Thank you. All right, so that one we'll put to the side, and your remarks are noted. The next thing I would like to move into with our agenda would be what started as an original remote work proposal and then transitioned into a counter by the union to a revision to the work days and the staff development days, which we talked about at our 3rd bargaining session, that we would go back and discuss that and review it as well. So in preparation of the discussion of this article, we're going to go ahead and do a handout, and then we'll discuss further in just one moment. Yes.
You want them together?
Yes. As you're collecting your handouts, I would like for you to organize them because I'd like to start with Article 3.1 and we'll transition to Article 6 and then ultimately end up with a discussion of a chart that you're receiving as a handout. So you should have Article 3, Article 6, and a handout with a chart. All right, I think everybody has their handouts. So with Article 3, I wanted to walk through for a moment because much of Article 3 and 6 is what you had presented to us. But I want to begin with everybody at the table and in the room to remind us what that was. Article 3.3 was a change from 6 to 7 workdays and a reduction of 4 to 3 for staff development days. Article 3.4, we removed the language of the days shall be designated as 6 teacher self-directed and simply stated each student early dismissal day will be a teacher self-directed planning day. Moving to Article 6, there's been an added letter B, 6.3, B as in boy, which reads the principal may have a one addition 45-minute blocks per month designated for collaborative planning and or professional learning community. And then I think C was just up to 45-minute planning periods are a traditional schedule or an uninterrupted block. It was a language piece.
Brian, hang on.
Yes.
Okay. Brian, I think this was an old one that was printed out. This isn't the
Okay.
one that was updated.
That's not the updated. Then
I sure hope that it,
I apologize. The chart is, I'm sorry, my team, I apologize to my team. The chart is accurate. Let me go to the chart and then we'll go from there.
Chart is accurate.
Because there's
The-
summary changes
the-
also.
This one is not right.
So then,
You want me to explain through it?
Yes, please.
Walk through it, is it?
yes,
okay?
please. There's an updated Article 3.1 and a 6, which is not updated to reflect what we're about to present. The chart reflects what we're going to discuss
Correct.
with respect to the language. So my
what we
apologies on
just
that.
got for 6 and 3 is,
The same
Three is
thing.
fine.
Yeah.
Three is fine.
Okay.
It's not 6.
okay,
On 6, sorry, I'm gonna compare the two real quick. A doesn't change, so the strike through for 1 is still there. What here is B goes down to C, and there is a new B that reads this. The principal may have up to 1 additional 45-minute block per month designated for collaborative planning and or professional learning community PLC. And then 6.3-1 is completely struck through.
so A still reads strike out 1 and add 2.
No,
You know what?
No, it's just.
Hold on,
We're not doing this.
I need to understand.
We're not doing
No,
it.
no.
Who has the copy of the most recent version?
I have it right.
Send it to me right now and I'll see if we can get it printed. Alright. Because trying to talk through this without something in front of people is not good. We're gonna take a break. While we print something out.
I guess since 3 is correct, can we ask questions about 3
Correct.
while we're waiting to utilize time? Okay, So since three is correct, I know the next couple calendars we have projected out with 25, 26, and 26, 27 that the calendar committee met. And that's going before the board. We have 10 early dismissal days in those calendars. Are we pulling that back? Or are we going to codify 10 early dismissal days in the contract?
At this time, there's no interest to reduce those number of days.
Okay, so then would it read 10 early dismissal days then, since we have those built in through 26, 27?
The way it just reads like all of whatever they are, all.
I understand that, and that's great. But it still says 7 early dismissal days when we have 10 scheduled over the this year, next year, and in the year after. So at the very first sentence of 3.4, the board shall include at least 7. Should we have 10? To reflect what the calendar looks like and to codify that?
If we have 10, I mean,
Okay.
that's fine.
That works.
Okay,
If we have 10,
If it were
that's
to-
fine.
if anything were to change, and again, I can't prevent the board from saying they're gonna modify that,
mhm,
but that would be a condition to reopen that.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
all know that. So
okay,
there is no interest at this time on behalf of the board to modify this.
Okay. so then we'll strike through 7 and add 10, just to reflect what we have for the next 2 years projected out. Okay. Okay. Okay, so team with Article 6, fold it and rip it, because they're printing us a new 6. Okay. So what you guys just got for 6, just rip it. Did he get six off the printer?
We're on a pause, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're on a small break. And the new 6 is here. Let's try it again. There's the 6. You come offline.
Yes, I think we're good.
Yeah, I just gotta go live event. Oh, no, I should still be good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. In the interest of time, we could go ahead and begin to unpack 6
Okay.
and then the chart as well.
Okay.
All right.
So,
Yep, let's go.
and we resume. Okay, so, preview notice in A, it doesn't change anything with language itself. It's still the one, 45-minute block per week. And I said it adds to B, there's one additional 45-minute block per month designated for collaborative planning or a professional learning community. It says up to. The up, I don't know what it is.
But it's,
It's crossed out. I'll have to look into that. And then it gets rid of 6.3-1 and also explain it down in the chart. It's probably a lot easier looking at it. The top part takes the 25-26 calendar and breaks it up into teacher director and school directed time.
mhm,
So when you take out the early release days that are staff development and days, weeks that there's a holiday somewhere where planning's canceled, comes out to 29, school directed planning at 141. Teacher directed, the other 10, just to let you know, those are from the early releases, so that's why they
Mhm.
aren't encumbered within it. So the proposal that's all written there is that it's an addition, there's no change in the half-day plannings, but there's an additional teacher directed full day,
mhm,
one less on school directed. And as I said, all the early release days go to teacher directed.
mhm,
Now, and that, this allows for 46 school directed planning. That means that every week, no matter if it's a holiday or not, there'd be one school directed planning. And then one additional PLC, which is 10 months. That's where the 46 times 36 plus the 10. And it comes out to the same number of structure. There's no difference in time. It's still 75.22% teacher directed, 24.78. It's the same, it's just reallocating time, not shifting anything.
So where in the language does it say? Cause I see where you've added B. To where on your proposal, the principal would be able to have one additional 45-minute block for collaborative planning or professional learning community. But on the shortened week. So is it,
It takes out 6.31. That's the part that takes out the on a shortened week, on an early dismissal day.
and then the clarification on C? Where you have stricken 4, but it says up to?
That's a read. Four should not be struck. It's just up to the 4, because what happens is it's saying in an like like Labor Day week.
Mhm.
There's Monday off, it would be 3 that week. That's why it's up to 4. It's
Okay.
not 4. It's up to 4. For that reason, to get the extra school related planning.
Okay, understood.
Sorry, that was my fault.
So, no, it's okay. So just so we understand. Our proposal in both instances has asked for more teacher planning time. Your proposal rearranges planning time, but it equals out to be the same amount of planning time.
Correct.
Okay. So we will take this back to and talk about it as a team, and probably pull our bargaining unit, and then we will come back with a counter, when we meet next. Okay.
So the item that we have to arrive at on our agenda is the money part of our discussion.
All right.
And the last time we were together, you had stated that you wanted to wait
Mhm.
for this moment to present your counter pending the district's AFR.
Yep.
Which came about in September. So with that being said,
Yes, sir.
I'll hand it over to you.
All right, so we actually have a few questions about your 4% proposal before we move into our presentation and our counter. So as we were pulling apart your 4% proposal, we started coming up with some questions that we needed some clarification on. So when you costed out the 4% across the board, did you calculate 4% to the base salary? Or leaving the base salaries and hourly rates the same in everybody else? So like it's 47.5 increasing by 4%, and then all of our beginning hourly rates for our support staff increasing 4%, or leaving the base salaries the same and then everybody else getting 4%? How is that costed out?
It's just 4% based on the.
So 47.5 would be increasing 4%. And the hourly rates would be, and the beginning hourly rates for our support staff would also be increasing 4%.
It's 4% of the base salary, district wide.
Oh.
So when you look at the salary schedules,
Mhm.
it's 4% on each area of the salary schedule. So wherever your placement is.
So then that would include then somebody at 47.5 would see 4%. And then if somebody's coming in with 0 years on the pair or secretary, that base hourly rate would also be increasing 4%.
We calculated the dollar amount as a whole, and if you recall, the last time we met, we said that would be up to how you to divide it up.
I understand that, but when you were calculating it, did you calculate the money based on the number of people in year 0 getting 4%?
We
Do you-
calculated.
Yes, we
Yes.
calculated the amount of budgeted salaries we have
Okay,
at 4%
okay.
for your group.
Okay, so second question then, when on your chart, you had, it was gonna cost $20 million. I'm assuming that number was with benefits, correct? Okay, so when we costed it out based on the numbers we get in the spring every year, to do 4% across the board would be $28 million with benefits, with the numbers that we were given in the spring, to calculate our salary proposal. So then our next question is, did you calculate it based on current employees in the district right now, or based on the numbers that we're supposed to jointly agree to going into bargaining? Because that's what we've been calculating our proposals on, is your highest employment rates. That's why we asked for them in the spring, because we know that that's your highest number of employment. And so was 4% calculated off people you currently have as of August, or was that calculated based on the numbers received in the spring?
Makes sense.
Same numbers that
Okay.
that you have from the spring.
Because what we did when we costed 4% across the board with the numbers that we had from the spring, we costed 28 million for 4% across the board with benefits. And in all 3 contracts, which is 70% of your employees, just under 9,000 people, that would cost $28 million with 21.84% fringe benefits. Okay, so we were asking that because if we were using different numbers, then we might be closer than we think we were, but if you're using the same numbers in the spring, we're not sure how we got so far off when we costed it out. All right. Okay, well, we have a presentation that is for wages. And then after our presentation, we have our wage counter. Okay. Okay, I don't think this might be on. No. Well, I'll use my teacher voice until Pat gets it. Bluetooth setup. Okay, maybe not. Okay. So we wanted to wait until your AFR was presented to the school board. Because we wanted to make sure that we were either supported in our original wage proposal, whether we needed to ask for more or we needed to scale it back. And so based on what was presented and the spreadsheets that we received from your department, we want to go through here what a 10.3% fund balance actually means. So the state requires a 3% minimum. Got it, right? So and that 3% right now in full is about $31.5 million. The board, our employer, has a self-imposed minimum of 5%. Okay, they like to keep an extra 2% for a rainy day with whatever comes up. That's what they like to keep as their self-imposed minimum, which equates to about $21 million over what the state requires for the fund balance to stay at. This year, we are reporting an employer surplus that is in excess of the school board imposed minimum of 5% with an additional 5.3% to make 10.3% total of the fund balance, which that means there is 55,650,000 extra dollars of taxpayer money that should be coming to salaries to support students and staff in Polk County Public Schools. Instead, we are sitting on this surplus. Yeah. And so if we look at history and trend data from the district summary budget to the annual financial report, which is their budget to actual. Okay, and this is starting back in 2010. Okay, district summary budget. District says we're poor, 2.3% is what we're going to end up at. When we finished the 2010-2011 school year, we ended 8.34% in our fund balance. In that year, there was a difference in the salary 100. So for those of you that don't know what the salary 100 is mostly what our general salaries come out of. So if you're paid out of general fund, you come out of salary 100. It's not special programs or title money or anything like that. That's where a majority of our salaries are paid through. And so in that year, district price poor, 2.32% fund balance, ended 8.34, and they had a lapse of $24.9 million in the salary 100 line item. 2011-2012 hits. Project, we're going to be poor, 3.59%. That year, they actually didn't end up poor because we had unfunded mandates for FRS that changed that year in the legislature and our governor at the time. And so the next year, district projects 0.03% fund balance, which is cutting even, you know, states coming in. That was also the year, if my records are correct, that your union took a wage freeze. Because we saw the numbers. It's looking bad. That year, though, employer ends at 6.78%. Keep going. Okay, next year, not so bad. 5.76 is projected. We landed almost 7%. And again, $15 million left in the salary 100 line item that wasn't spent. 2014-2015, we're poor again. 3.67% summary budget. We land at 6.6 with $3.6 million left over in the salary 100. 2015-2016, we're poor again in the district summary budget. 3.74%. We land almost double that, right at 6%, with $2.5 million left over in the salary 100 line item. 2016-2017, we're starting to see the effects of that tiered insurance system that we actually won an arbitration on, because the employer unilaterally tiered our insurance, almost bankrupted the insurance plan by doing that. Projected, at 2.26, we end up landing at 5. And that year, we almost broke even with the salary 100. 2017, 2018. Poor again in the district summary budget, 3.34%. And not so great, 4.5%, had about $5 million left in the salary 100. The next year, we're projected to land at 2.63%. We actually land at 3.78, another bad year. But also, I want to remind everybody, that's also the year that we kept our insurance at 0 and took a wage freeze. Right, and that's the year that we also won, the plan kind of looks like is on the table for employers to take away. 1920, we're projected to land at 2.6%. We land at 6.25% with $8 million left in the salary 100. And then we start to see our fund balance start to grow pretty steadily here. 2021, we're projected at 4.46%. We landed just under 8% with 17.8 million left in the salary 100 line item. 21-22, we're projected at 3.54%. Again, we're poor, but we don't land poor. We land over 9% in the fund balance that year with 12.8 million left in the salary 100 line item. 22-23, fund balance is projected in that district summary budget to be just under 3%. Red flag, poor. We don't want the state to come in. We landed just under 8% in the 22-23 with $24 million left over in the salary 100 line item. In the 23-24, which is the annual financial report that we just got, we were projected to land under 5% at 4.22%. We land this year at 10.3% fund balance with a $53.9 million left over in the salary 100. No. And this is coupled this year with 671 full-time substitutes in our classrooms and covering positions. Kelly substitutes that are not certified staff. 618 of those 671 are teachers of record. They are acting as full-time teachers, expected to do the work, but they are not certified to do the work. 40 of those 671 are paraeducator substitutes. Yet there are only 286 instructional positions posted as vacancies on the website. Out of the 671, when we look through the data, 157 of those 671 are positions that are directly working with ESE, ESOL, and behavior students. They're not certified, they're not qualified to do that job. Yet there are only 54 ESE teacher vacancies posted. And there are 30 contracted ESE positions through contracted services, which means that we're paying a company more than just paying our own people more to do those services. Now let's talk about contracted positions. Our district right now, our employer is contracting 309 employees that are not district employees to be in our schools at a higher rate because they have to pay the company that they're contracting with. 35 of those positions are contracted school counselors right now. Yet there are only 20 positions for school counselors posted on the district website. Out of those contracted employees, 198 of them are speech language pathologists. 16 are contracted occupational therapists, and 5 are contracted physical therapists. And so this all ties into, we must pay our employees more in the Polk County Public School System if we wish to attract and keep people working for Polk County. And so we have, as part of our wage presentation, we have some speakers that are here to talk about the financial proposals and their impacts.
Hello, I'm Wanda Miller. I am a high school math teacher here in Polk County. I teach at Lake Gibson High School, geometry, a tested subject. Most of the students coming into my classes didn't pass their EOC for the algebra class. Most of them were passed through and really shouldn't have been because they don't know math. I spend my days teaching geometry and algebra 1 to all of my students. Okay. I do this in a classroom that remarkably is set at 72 degrees, but the temperature on the thermometer says that it's getting up to, well, a few days, 88 degrees in there. Now, being in a room with almost 30 adult-sized, sweaty teenagers who have had PE or JROTC training and smell kind of like me after a 6-mile hike, I can't even imagine that you could see it unless you're there. I sit here and I say this because we also got an email from our district telling us how much we're appreciated, and then telling us how that we have old air conditioners and we should just realize that they don't work very well. I cannot work that way. It is not comfortable. Students don't learn that way. It's difficult. I came to Polk County. This is my 7th year here. I'm a 15-year teacher. I came from Hillsborough County to start over. I had to start over on everything. Because you see, I lost one of my children. I had to bury a son. Cost me $20,000 of my retirement. So I came here for a fresh start with my daughter. I bought a house with a teacher grant. And I was doing okay. But then our governor raised wages. I was happy to get the raise because you see, at 11-year teaching, I was now being paid the minimum teacher pay. Of course, my school asked me to help train all the new teachers that just got out of college. I was making the same amount as them, but I was asked to train them because after all, I had 10 years of experience. Okay, this is not okay with me. 4%, well, that's an insult. I've already been slapped in the face when you raised it to a minimum wage. And now you ask me to take 4% and stay deep and all compressed in the salary. At 15 years, I barely now make more than a beginning teacher. The moment that this happened, I started looking for a job outside of education. I'm not ashamed to say that. I deserve to live well. I am 4 years away from retirement. I would like to retire before I'm 70. I'm 64 years old. I need enough money to support myself. The wages are not fair, and you won't keep good teachers. There are teachers who are here and they are excited that they've made it 5 years before they found something else outside of education and they're leaving. This is not good. It's not good for your district. It's not good for the children. It's not good for anyone. Why am I still here? Because I love what I do. What other job can I talk about math all day long with no one thinking I'm weird? I love what I do, but I can't afford it. Thank you.
I don't think this is working, so I'll try to speak as loud as I can. My name is Nadia Hernandez. I'm sure that if I haven't worked with one of you, you've seen me in your school. I'm an academic behavior support teacher for the district. I drive all around the district, and now because we're zoned, we are focused in the northeast area. But with the new feeder program, I also have schools in Lakeland that when I drive to, I don't get mileage for because they are too close to home compared to my office, which is 24 miles away from my house. I am the one who goes into the classroom to support teachers with behavior. I have encountered a lot of the issues where I am called to support a school in a classroom where the teachers in there are substitute teachers. I cannot teach behavior strategies to a teacher that's not gonna be there tomorrow. And because I am serving 22 schools in the districts, I cannot help and be in that classroom every single day. Admins do not have enough staff in the school, which I understand to help, but the kids that are suffering the most in those classrooms are our ESC kiddos with a lot of behavior support, who have teachers who don't know how to implement the behavior plans, who do not know how to academically teach to the IP goals. And they also do not even know how to do basic classroom management. And the paras that are supporting in those classrooms are the one coming up and stepping up, and they're not getting paid for that extra support that they're giving because the Kelly sub is the one that gets paid the teacher's salary for that day. We are the ones who also train not only school admins, but also teachers in CPI restraints that is required by the district to be taught. We don't get an extra stipend for that. We are actually taken out of our role as behavior support teacher to spend a day training staff, and we don't get any additional compensation for that. As well as we are the one in the behavior units getting kicked, getting hit, getting spit, getting punched, and having to restrain students because there's nobody else a lot of times in the school district who's certified to restrain and provide the district approved restraining protocol through CPI. On top of that, after I finish my workday at 3:30, I have a second job as an early interventionist where I am driving from home to home to provide services to students who are younger than 3 years old because my salary is not enough to pay for my monthly bills. I am working 6 days a week to be able to make ends meet. And to be honest, the only reason why I was able to go on vacation this summer was because my sister paid for the entire vacation. Otherwise, I would have been stuck at home just cleaning my yard and fixing my house for the rest of the summer to get ready for school this next year. So we definitely need a fair wage because it's not fair that we are doing the work of 2, 3, 4, 5 people and not getting compensated equally. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Kim Lasnick, and I'm a speech language pathologist with this district with over 20 years of service in this district. I would like to share my personal story, which illustrates the urgent need for the district to take historic action to address staff pay raises today, particularly for specialized positions like speech language pathologists. And I have to sit because looking at that contract, 198 contracted positions is unacceptable. In my 2 decades here, I have seen the district grow and change, but I have not received pay increases that have kept up with the rising cost of living during this time. My salary has been compressed within the district's pay scale to the point where new hires and less experienced colleagues are earning nearly the same, or in the case of the contracted employees, more than I am. This is not just a matter of fairness. It impacts my ability to keep up with inflation, provide for my family, and continue in a job that has increasingly overwhelming demands. Right now, I am carrying the caseload of at least 3 full-time SLPs. It's not just a strain on me personally, it's also a disservice to the students who need consistent, high-quality care. The workload is unmanageable, and it has only gotten worse with the significant growth in our county. And as more and more therapists leave for better paying jobs in neighboring districts or in the private sector. The district has been unable to fill these positions, and in some cases, in a lot of cases, we've resorted to using contracted virtual labor to meet student needs. Unfortunately, these virtual contracted therapists are not meeting the district's needs. They have either not started to serve students, or they often lack the connection with students and the familiarity with the district's processes, which leads to a drop in the quality of services. Many students are already losing or are without service. and this is not just a temporary inconvenience. This puts us in violation of federal and state mandates that require us to provide timely and appropriate services to students with speech and language impairments. The district is already beginning to lose funding for speech services because, with the vacancies and high staff attrition, we are failing to meet our legal obligations. If this trend continues, we risk not only losing more funding, but also exposing the district to potential legal action from families whose children are not receiving the services they are entitled to. We can't afford to keep using stopgap measures like expensive, less effective contracted labor. Without competitive pay and a commitment to retaining experienced staff, the district will continue to see positions go unfilled, and the quality of care for our students will only worsen. I urge the district to take this seriously and to invest in our staff raises now. We are at a breaking point now. The cost of doing nothing will far exceed the investment needed to retain and attract qualified teachers in SLP. We are dedicated to our students and to this district, but without a meaningful pay increase, we will continue to see more therapists leave and more students lose services. And the district will lose funding necessary to support speech and other ESC services. This is a crisis that cannot wait. Action must be taken now to preserve the future of these essential services. The situation is dire, however, there is a path forward. Through the efforts of myself and other district hired SLPs across the state, and with the support of our local unions, Polk Education Association and the Florida Education Association, we have been successful in advocating for the creation of an SLP, OT, and PT task force to address the issues of retention, recruitment, and fair compensation across Florida. This task force is actively working to find solutions for districts like ours, and we've already seen positive outcomes in other counties. For example, in Nassau County and Osceola County, substantial pay increases for SLPs, OTs, and PTs have eliminated vacancies. They no longer have open positions because they have invested in competitive compensation, recognizing the critical need to retain and attract qualified professionals. The question now is, where does Polk County stand in comparison to other districts? How many more vacancies must we endure before we follow the lead of other counties that have successfully addressed these issues? Polk County is at a critical juncture. Without the competitive pay structure, we will continue to lose SLP, leaving our students without the services they are legally entitled to, while the district loses vital funding. I strongly urge the district to take action, address these issues now. The success seen in Nassau and Osceola counties shows that this is a solvable problem. Polk County should not lag behind. It's time to invest in our professionals and protect our students.
Come on up, Sharon.
Yeah. I haven't realized that.
Bluetooth setup.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
My name is Kidani Henry. I've been a teacher for 22 years in public schools, the last 10 in Polk County. I'm here to advocate for all teachers for a salary increase that respects the work that we do. You currently have a surplus of over $55 million. This could have been used to fund our salary increases easily and still have enough left over to put aside $8 million into the Polk County School Board Savings Account. I'm feeling very frustrated that every cycle when we ask for a fair and honest salary increase, the employer always figures out a way to say no. To me, it appears that the board doesn't value our teachers. Polk County has had a reputation for not paying its teachers well compared to other districts that pay more, like Hillsborough, etc. We have a current massive teacher shortage of over 600 teachers in the Polk County School District. I believe that we pay our teachers a fair wage, that if we pay a fair wage, we would be able to retain our best and brightest teachers. Our district slogan is students first. However, we must make paying our experienced teachers a priority in order to get the best from our students. Many schools have 10% or more substitute teachers as long-term teacher solutions. I love teaching, but every year it becomes more and more of an economic struggle. Monday, September 16th, my wife at 12 a.m. was also up for 22 years, suffered a sudden traumatic brain injury. They had her in ICU for the past 2 weeks. She's at home now healing, but has a very long road ahead of her for recovery. I believe she will recover in Jesus' name, but in the meantime, she will not be able to work. So all of it's on me right now. If the Polk County School Board pays teachers a salary respect where we do, when unexpected events occur, it'd be less financially dramatic for teachers. This is the issue of doing what is right and honorable towards our teachers. I cannot for the life of me understand why this employer would refuse to use the budget surplus to do the right thing. Thank you for your time.
Sharon Phillips from Ridge Tech.
Technical
Thank
college, not high school.
Thank you.
This is a reply to Stephanie's email that she sent out on the 25th. Stephanie, thank you for your recent email. We will not settle for our employers' first offer of 4%. Knowing they are sitting on an additional $55,600,000 in savings account, while ignoring the problems we are facing while we work for the betterment of our students. Just to digress, I've been in the school district since 1999, 76 months that I was off when I retired and came back. Why, with all this money in savings, did the district cut 60% of the clerical and para staff of Ridge Technical College at the end of last year? We have lines of people waiting to be helped for lack of staff. Remaining staff is doing what they can to keep up, and other important work is going by the wayside. For example, on 9/24, when an administrator looked in the main student filing system for my student's folder, it wasn't there. I was with him when he looked. When asked where the student's folder was, the student services secretary said, in a box underneath my desk. She then went to her filing cabinet and pulled out the file that our administrator asked for. He said, we need to get these filed. She replied, I haven't had time to file the new student folders. And this was in September, the end of September. By not having quote unquote time to secure student files in the proper location for administration to access, the students' HIPAA restricted information and the entire system is compromised. Heaven forbid a hurricane take out the box. This was before we had the hurricane. The file under the secretary's desk. It is unconscionable for the district to be holding onto this money and not providing the level of service to the students and the public that they deserve. What is it? A rainy day fund? I want all district employees to be able to work and support their families. So I'm speaking for all. At this rate, the district will single-handedly eliminate post-secondary education from this county.
Our union's proposal addresses the critical staffing emergency that Polk County Public Schools have right now. Our union proposal addresses bringing people that are certified back into this profession, because we do not have a shortage of teachers in Florida. We have a mass exodus because they cannot live on the wage that our district is currently paying. Okay, our proposal, and we have it on our today that we're gonna go through in just a second. Our proposal addresses this. We are in the hurricane right now. We cannot sit on this money. We must use this money and go for a millage referendum in the 26th ballot in November so that we can not only recruit, but retain high-quality staff in our classrooms, on our buses, in our front offices, as support staff for our paraeducators across the board. If we do not address this now, the business that the district's in of educating children, there won't be people in the buildings to teach these children. The money has to come. So with that, we have a slight adjustments to our wage counter. I'm gonna pass a lot of papers your way. The first is going to be some pay grade changes. Some of this came from the perk review. When we had to go through the units. And some of this came out of the job description review committee. For our para and our ESP pay grades. The next page is our ESP pay grades. I'll try to give this about half and half. And I think we'll pass everything out and then we'll go through everything at one time. This is the revised teacher wage proposal. Sorry, this is a big piece of paper. This is para 3, pay grade 3. Four. 3. Para 6. I wanted it to fit on as one sheet as possible. And then here's the total. All right, so let's go through the pay grade changes first. We'll start with the ESP Appendix A classifications. When we had to clarify our unit. I got you. I got you. Oh, wait.
How many long trees?
There's 2 big ones.
Okay.
And then you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 regular size.
Want to make sure.
Yep.
it's follow along.
No, you're good. Thank you. So 4 regular size and then 2 big ones.
What is this, one? Just a summary sheet?
Yes.
Can you give us the title?
Yep.
The.
The, so it's, if you look in the top left corner, you'll see PA 3. And then in the other one, you'll see PA 6.
No, we have the same. We have 2. We don't have a PA. We have 2 PAOs. We ran out of PA3s, I think.
That's not bad.
I did 40. Do we have extra PA 3s? Or PA 6, sorry.
No, we have 2 PA6s.
You need PA 3. Do we have extra PA 3s?
That's coming back.
All right, it's coming back. Pass that over to you. All right.
We just wanna make sure we can follow it.
No, you're good. So does everybody have 2 big pieces of paper and 4 regular sized pieces of paper? Okay. All right, so we would like to start with the pay grades first. So some of these changes were brought on by the Public Employee Relations Commission unit clarification. We had found some job descriptions that were part of our unit, but weren't specifically outlined in the classifications. And so those are in red, that they are ESP pay grade, but they just weren't a part of the classifications. And so in PGO3, the accounting clerk specialist Head Start needed to be added to PGO3. It currently already sits there, but wasn't clarified document. PGO4, the unit clarification, we needed to add in District Office Systems Assistant 1. And then if you turn on the back, the last red one, is the Secretary 3 Executive was also, the job description had them at PRS 12, but they were not listed. And so we have added them to the classifications. This was not part of the job description review committee, but I sent, as I was going through my job descriptions list, there were a couple that we didn't convene that we, it wasn't on the agenda. And so, and looking at the professional development specialist, the planning and assessment specialist, and the child care service specialist, there are 3 people in those positions right now doing that job. And it came to our attention from the planning and assessment specialist that she's doing a lot of the same jobs as a principal secretary, having to do with payroll, budgets and all that kind of stuff, but just not at a school-based level. They're at a district department level. And so with reviewing that job description, we had sent an email last week that we would be proposing to move those 3 positions to the PRS 12 to be in line with what the principal secretary role is at a regular traditional school. So that goes over the proposed changes to the ESP. The next pay grade that we'll look at is the para educator. And so we didn't have any that needed to be added to the para educator pay grade from the unit clarification, but we did have in the job description review committee. Yeah, but when in the job description review committee, and that's a joint committee of union and management, we reviewed one of the job descriptions that was reviewed this year was the ESOL para. And then the committee is recommending that the ESOL para be moved from PA01 to PA03, which is in line with what our ESE paras are coded at, since they provide services, similar tiered services that our ESE paras also provide. And that is the only change in the pay grade, because in the adjudicated youth para, we're leaving them at PA6, but we're enhancing their hourly rate to be the same as the center school paras. And so in the big sheets now, in the PA03, oh, go ahead.
May we go back?
Yes.
Did you hit the Head Start parent outreach grandfather piece in PA07?
That was already there in red. That's currently in the contract. We did that, I think, last time or the time before.
Okay.
So that was already in the red, in the PA7, that's already ratified language.
We need to make it black.
Yeah, I can do that. So if you're looking at your big sheets now in the para, our para proposal remains the same outside of these 2 pay grades. And really PA03 June 26th. The pay amounts remain the same, but we did a new cost out because there are a little over 100 ESOL paras. And so that cost, by moving them from PA1 to PA3, is where you see the cost of the para contract total cost increase by about a little over $300,000 with benefits. To move those employees from PA 1 to PA 3. And then on the back, you'll see that. That it's a little less than 300,000. And then the PA 6, with the recommendation of the job description review committee, instead of physically moving these 4 employees to PA 9, which we would have to create another work lane in PA 9. There's 4 employees on this pay grade, and so the job description review committee is recommending, and you'll see that reflected here, that the hourly rates mirror what PA 9 is, and then leaving them in PA 6 for system ease. And so these are the 2 addendums to the para. And again, the PA 3 is not changing as far as what we originally proposed. The PA 6 is the one changing. We just wanted you to see what the cost out difference would be from moving the ESOL paras from PA 1 to PA 3. Okay. Now, the next piece of paper that we will look at, it starts with this one. It says executive summary toward the top. And so instead of printing out mostly things that haven't changed, what you see on page 3 of 3, on page 1 of 3, part of our wage counter is that AAE group, which is the first group after 47.5 on the teacher schedule. Instead of them moving a level and adding 2% to make it in line with closer to a 4% total raise, we are including AAE to get 3% across the from what they're at now to what they would be proposed to be making, plus the level move. That anybody that's at 47.5 with a year of experience as of July 1 would move to. And so total cost difference is the last page. It's the single page. So in June, we had proposed for all 3 contracts with benefits, it was $47,278,850. With the changes to the teacher contract of the AAE getting 3% plus the level move instead of the 2%. And then the para educator changes with their pay grade moves. The total is $47,725,948. And this again includes the pay grade changes to ESOL and the adjudicated youth. Additionally, over about a week or so, thousands of your employees also agree with the union proposal, their union proposal. And so we would like to present to you petitions to support the union proposal.
We still have work to do. Our original proposal, when we came together the very first time, 4 weeks ago, back in June, was a management proposal of unprecedented increase of 4%. We've listened, we've received feedback. We've heard, we received. But the next discussion is about numbers. As I said, it was an unprecedented offer of the increase of 4%. you opened with questions with respect to how that was calculated. At the end of the day, it was over $20 million that was put on the table. $20,228,036 million. At that point in time, the union was very adamant in turning that down. Just as you summarized, that you wanted to wait for the AR. While we've been waiting for your counter proposal, we have been, at the table working with other groups, working to settle, and we have been successful at that. I know that I'm also tracking, like you are, across the state, districts that are settling and the percent that they are settling on, and I could read those districts off to you with respect to them settling at a threshold percentage that's very close and comparable to where we are at as well. I think that it's not prudent to discuss just a carte blanche discussion of districts because there's size differentials, there's district cost differentials, there's lots of different factors that come to play with respect to how those districts are funded. So I want to put that on the record. I'm still working my head around the numbers that you presented, but I think the bottom number you closed with was a counter offer of $47 million.
47.7.
47.7, $48 million. So we're roughly $28 million away from where we're reviewing our numbers and our financial statements. The proposal is not viable in that it would take the district below its board policy of 5%. We're going to discuss that tonight, and we're going to unpack that. There is a matter of us being responsible with our funds with respect to looking ahead and being able to fund positions that are in, and the allocations that are out there. We did present the proposal to you with TIA, the TISA dollars included. Had the TISA dollars not been in that allocation, our numbers would be a lot more detrimental to the fund balance, almost 3% at that point in time without those funds. So we did put those on the table for your use this time. I know we're going to unpack and talk about fund balance, but I want to put it in this terms. If I earn $1,000 a month and I go out and buy a car for $10,000, and I've got a monthly payment of $750 a month, I got $10,000 in my savings account and I use $9,000 as a down payment on that car. I'm going to be in a bad situation eventually with respect to my savings going to be depleted. And I don't have a plan for any repairs or insurance, accidents, health problems, fuel, or simply making our other financial obligations. So if the union's ask could be granted, there would have to be very, very tough decisions made with respect to positions that must be evaluated. Because those positions fund directly into the cost and the budgets that we're going to discuss with you here momentarily. We have been tracking FTE through our 8 and 15-day reviews. We do use a formulaic approach to that. And as we're tracking those along with the growth coming in, what we've seen is we have growth in some areas and we have some areas where we're having to pull back. We're looking at the potential of having to reduce some of those allocations in some of those areas with respect to where we've seen growth and where we've seen the growth not develop. So, these are discussions, we've heard the discussions. Everyone, your people, your teachers, your paraeducators, your secretaries. That's why these discussions of these increases are so important, because we want to be prudent to be able to not just maintain those positions, but continue to hire for the positions that you discussed at the beginning as well. All right, the next part I want to do is hand it over to Jason to unpack more discussion with respect to our fund balance and information with respect to some trend data that will impact our discussion tonight.
Yeah, can we pass around? Okay, in front of you, the handout, is a fund balance history, a graph that shows fund balance history back to 2019-20. And projects out fund balance, until 27-28. Now, I see up there that, and in your presentation, you used the word surplus. So fund balance is not a surplus per se. Fund balance is a accounting term that's used only in public terms, of balances that are left over after a end of the year. It's not technically a surplus. And then in the state of Florida, we have to hold a minimum of 3%. That means in our budget and at the end of the year, what's left over in our fund balance has to be 3%. Our boards passed the policy of a minimum of 5%. Now, to put that into terms of so many days in reserve, if we had an 8.3 fund balance, that would be a 30-day reserve. Best practice for Government Finance Officers Association is a 60-day reserve, which would be 16%. So a 5% fund balance is a very low fund balance. Now, taking a look at the graph that I handed out, in 1920, we did end at a 6.37 fund balance. In 2020-21, we ended with an 8.10% fund balance. In 21-22, we ended with a 9.34% fund balance. In 22-23, that dropped to 8.10%. And in 23-24, we did end with a 10.28% fund balance. All of you remember what happened in 2020, in 2020, which was at the end of the 1920 fiscal year. That's when COVID hit. And beginning in the years 2021, 21, 22, 22, 23, and ending in the 23, 24 school year, we had an influx of ESSER dollars of federal funds. You can see with the orange line what our ending fund balance would have been had we not received those ESSER dollars. It would have been 6.59% in 2021. Would have been 4.57% in 21-22. 22-23, we would have fallen to 3.82%. And in the last fiscal year, we would have ended at 5.39% instead of that 10.28%. Now, a surplus would be the difference between your revenue and expense in a year. And I'm sure with the AFR, you saw that our expenses were more than our revenue by $28.6 million. So we're currently in a negative situation, expense over revenue. That's why our projected fund balance is dropping from 10.28% ending in 23-24 down to 7.8% in 24-25. We're using that fund balance to make it through the end of the year. And if those trends continue, next year in 25-26 will be below the 5% at 4.7%. In the following year, we would be at 1.8%. That's if all things hold true to the way trends have showed us. Now, doing a quick calculation of what you presented, Stephanie. An additional 20, let's see. An additional 27 million.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
I was trying.
That would drop us in 24-25 to an ending fund balance of 5.3%. And then next year, we would be at 2.2%. Would be below the state level of 3%, and very close to being financially insolvent. That's a quick rundown of what fund balance means and why we can't offer any additional funds.
A couple other points in addition to that is we're trying to express that we've been tapping from a one-time pot of money. That was the example of the car that we're buying and depleting our savings account. And further, we can't look at just like this year's proposal, because these are raises that go on and impact us in multiple years beyond just the discussion. It's a residual cost ongoing. So we've also got to project looking out with respect to the cost of what we would be ratifying at the table as well, that we can sustain what we're agreeing to.
And in that AFR, it'll show you that nearly 80% of our budget is salaries and benefits. That means in future years, as we start to become financially insolvent, it means really reductions in salaries or layoffs to be able to change that course. That's without knowing if the state's going to increase revenue. You know, we don't have control, as you know, we don't have control over revenue. We're the only taxing authority in the county does not have control of its revenue. We cannot increase the millage rate without going out for some sort of referendum, as you referred to. And Polk County has continued to slide when it's compared to other districts. You know, there's 67 districts in Florida, and we are in the bottom 6, bottom 7 as far as funding goes. So, you know, that's a state prescribed formula.
So what I think we're hearing is that the board, who you guys bargain on behalf of, should be setting their priorities maybe a little differently. We have 671 Kelly subs in our schools right now. You want an A district, yet we have uncertified staff teaching children that have no idea how to teach children. They have no idea how to manage a classroom. They have no idea the pedagogy that goes into being a teacher. Those numbers will continue to grow. If this employer, if this school board does not reset some priorities. Sitting on this from a school board standpoint, the board, I would hope, would be very concerned about having certified, qualified educators in the classroom and in front of children. Because this is not about a percentage raise. This is about the future of public education in Polk County and across this state. We cannot continue to hemorrhage staff as they walk out every day. They walk out on kids every day because we cannot rearrange our priorities to pay them.
So what we'd like to do next is take the handouts that I've gotten 6 of them I notated here. We'd like to take a few moments, go into caucus, have further discussions. We've had a dialogue with respect to fund balance and trends that we see. And then we will come back when we're done caucusing.
Okay.
All right, thank you. right, so we're coming back to bargaining at 6:08. The district has been in caucus and we're going to offer some remarks relative to counter those that you present to us this evening. The first thing I want to offer is what I stated as before we went out into caucus is a restatement of the fact that we're $27 million, $7,000 million difference between where we allocated and shared the offer of 20 million and change to where the offer came in tonight. 27,700,000 difference. That's not a distance of a couple million. That's a large chasm. That's not a distance that we're in a capacity to cross. We've been in 4 bargaining sessions together. We started the last session we were together, that was determined that there would be a delay in the financial discussions and proposals and counter proposals back and forth with respect to the salaries until the AFR. That was very strategic priority with respect to what you outlined tonight, wanting to see the annual financial review of those files. But that also has delayed where we're at. I think it goes without saying that we have a fiduciary responsibility representing the district with respect to our budgets and the allocations, the FTE, the multiple funding sources. And taking all of that into consideration, we've discussed tonight that the board, we have a policy of 5%. We've discussed the statutory provision of financial emergency at 3%. I'm mindful that as I've reviewed your proposal, that honestly, from where we started with the original proposal presented by the union to where we are tonight, it shows really no movement or reduction from where we started with respect to where we outlined previously our allocations and how we arrived at those numbers and how there was funds there enough to provide an overall 4% for everybody in your group. I'm going to be very clear that the district has no counter proposal this evening. We have outlined financial discussions. We've explained elements of trends and how we arrived there this evening. And I additionally want to offer that while there's been discussions of what can happen to the fund balance and what the district has the capacity to do, including the superintendent, there is no authority to negotiate for us to go below or outside of those values. And those authorities and those discussions are based off the financial statuses that we've shared tonight through the reports, through the summaries, and the charts showing the multi-year progression of the fund balance. Following our meeting this evening, Mr. Hyde will provide a summary to the board. We do want to relay that the board has discussed in a public meeting that they would like to have Mr. Hyde present information on types of referendums and what the options are in that regard. And that is exactly what we intend to do. And as the board continues to evaluate those referendum options, that'll be discussions that will involve the legality of all parties and involve a lift that I know everybody's speaking of. So with those closing remarks, we have nothing further to offer this evening with respect to the fact that we don't have a counter. We've been to the table 4 times. And I think my next step is to go back and to review if there's any value, in fact, to another bargaining session. We have outlined all of the components with respect to the financial statuses and how we arrived at those numbers. And I'm re-summarizing again, there's no authority for us to go below or outside of those values, and we're going to maintain those lines. So,
Well, that's great news that you have said you don't have the authority to go below, because we're not asking you to. Based on Ms. Jenkins' proposal to the board on September 3rd, with the $20 million that you have budgeted for your proposal, and when I say yours, the board proposal, management's proposal, it still wouldn't take you below 7%. And so our proposal would take you down over the next 2 years, but not below 5. And this district, this employer has to put a millage on the ballot. And I know Mr. Hyde has discussed different referendum. Okay, we cannot wait 3 years. We have to take action now. And then once we get a referendum passed, which we are more than glad to be partners in that work. Okay, because it benefits everybody. It benefits kids, it benefits staff. But over the next 2 years, you cannot have your Kelly babysitters continue to be in classrooms teaching children who are they're not teaching children. And if we want to increase our grade, if we increase the quality of public education in Polk County, we have to address this now. And so the board, our employer, should take this. They should rearrange their priorities with their budget, because their only 2 responsibilities are to make a budget and to pass policy. That's really their only 2 responsibilities. So they should be directing their budget priorities, which should be children.
So we have nothing further to discuss, but I do want to follow up with respect to the Kelly babysitter remark. Because almost 300 of those were provisional substitutes that you, in fact, wanted to try to put in the union at a previous bargaining session. There was language presented by you. So I find it interesting that you refer to them as Kelly babysitters, but yet you wanted them as a part of your collective union.
When
at
they
an
were
earlier
under the
point in
district
time.
umbrella, absolutely.
So again, we've come to a place this evening where we've completed the items on our agenda. And so we're going to go offline and we'll conclude our negotiations this evening.
So before we do that, we need to look at dates, because we need to have a couple dates on the calendar.
We can go ahead and schedule some dates, but I'm going to be clear on the record. We are going to review the efficacy of if it's meaningful to continue to another session, because at the end of the day, we have no counter to present to you. So there would be nothing for us to bring back to you at that point in time. So we can schedule the date, but there is nothing that we have to bring back. We have other language items, but we're stuck on the money piece. So we'll leave it at that. So
So what's on the table is take it or leave it.
what is on the table are the multiple tentative agreements that we've had, the language discussions we've had this evening that we're yet bringing back and forth, and then the money. So that's where we're at. And again, we can schedule dates at a later time, or why don't you give us a date or two and we'll check calendars and we'll leave it at that.
So if we're looking at calendars, in October, we're looking at next week. Wednesday, the 9th. Tuesday, the 10th.
Thursday.
Sorry, Thursday, the 10th, Wednesday and 9th, Thursday, the 10th. Wednesday, the 16th. And those are 3 dates that we are available.
So what we'll do is check our availability. We have recorded 10-9, 10-10, and 10-16 when your team will be available.
Yep.
We'll coordinate our calendars and the potential scheduling of this facility, and then we'll get back with.
All right.
All right.
So these are genuine dates to negotiate, is that what you're saying?
And I want to be clear, because there was a time on the record that we discussed dates.
Potential dates.
Yeah, and it was said that we would do all 3. It will be one of these 3, not all 3. So I want to be very clear on that, because there was communication put out before that we had canceled 2 bargaining sessions, and it was not that way at all. We presented it at the table as 2 options. So I want
We
to make,
canceled both.
I want to make the information clear. relative to you have offered 10-9, 10-10, and 10-16. We'll select one with
Okay.
respect to review of our calendars and go from there.
And do you have a
Okay.
time frame for selecting that one date?
We'll get back to you in several days. Give us
So
some
several days?
time to review calendars and the scheduling of this facility. We'll get back with you through Stephanie.
By Wednesday, close your business.
Okay,
So
thank
Wednesday
you.
close the business, we will look for a settled date.
Okay,
All right.
thank you. All right. We are going offline at 6:18.